Imagine this, you're sitting on the couch, scrolling through your phone, when your husband walks in with that look in his eye. You know the one, the "I have an idea, and you're not going to like it" look. Before you can even ask what's going on, he's holding up his phone, camera already rolling, and says, "We're trying this with the dog. Right now." That's exactly where this story begins. Hi, I'm your name, and if you've ever been in a situation where your partner convinces you to do something completely out of your comfort zone, you're going to want to hear what happened next. Let me set the scene for you. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, and our dog, Max, was sprawled out on the floor, living his best life. Max is your typical goofy, lovable golden retriever, always up for a snack or a belly rub, but not exactly the most obedient when it comes to, well, anything beyond sit. My husband, let's call him Jake, had been binge-watching dog training videos all morning. You know the ones, where these perfectly behaved dogs do these incredible tricks, and the owners make it look so easy. Jake was convinced Max could do the same. And not just any trick, he wanted to try something unusual. Something that would, in his words, go viral. Now, I'm not one to shy away from a challenge, but this felt different. Jake's idea involved Max, a camera, and a stunt that I was pretty sure would end with someone, probably me, getting embarrassed or, worse, hurt. But Jake was persistent. "Trust me," he said, "it's going to be hilarious. And if it works, it'll be amazing." I hesitated. Max wagged his tail, oblivious to the chaos that was about to unfold. And before I knew it, Jake had the camera pointed at us, counting down like we were about to launch into some kind of family-friendly action movie. What happened next was, well, let's just say it didn't go as planned. At all. There was barking, there was laughing, there was a moment where I thought, why did I agree to this? But through it all, the camera kept rolling. And as much as I wanted to stop and tell Jake this was a terrible idea, I couldn't help but get caught up in the moment. Max, of course, was just happy to be included, even if he had no idea what was going on. But here's the thing, this story isn't just about a silly stunt with our dog. It's about those moments in life where you step outside your comfort zone, even when every part of you is screaming not to. It's about trusting the people you love, even when their ideas seem a little out there. And it's about the unexpected ways our pets can bring us closer together, even when they're being their chaotic, lovable selves. So, what exactly did Jake convince me to do with Max? And did it work? Well, that's where I'm going to leave you hanging, for now. Let's just say, by the end of it, I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe, and Max, well, Max was just Max. If you want to see how it all went down, stay tuned for the next part of the story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Alright, so let's rewind a little and give you some context. Jake and I have always been the kind of couple who loves trying new things together. Whether it's cooking a complicated recipe, taking up a random hobby, or even just binge-watching a new TV show, we're always up for an adventure. But when it comes to Jake's ideas involving Max, I've learned to be a little cautious. Let's just say Jake's creativity doesn't always align with Max's, let's call it enthusiasm. Max, our golden retriever, is the sweetest, most lovable dog you'll ever meet. But he's also a little unpredictable. One minute he's lying peacefully at your feet, and the next he's sprinting around the house like he's auditioning for the Doggy Olympics. He's not exactly what you'd call trainable. Sure, he knows the basics, sit, stay, paw, but anything beyond that? Forget it. Jake, however, refuses to accept this. He's convinced Max has hidden talents, just waiting to be discovered. And that's where this whole idea came from. A few days before the camera incident, Jake had stumbled across a viral video of a dog doing this incredible trick. I won't spoil it for you, but let's just say it involved the dog, some props, and a lot of coordination. Jake was obsessed. "We have to try this with Max," he said, his eyes lighting up like a kid on Christmas morning. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was just another one of his passing whims. But Jake doesn't let things go easily. He spent the next 2 days researching, planning, and even practicing with Max when I wasn't looking. By the time Sunday rolled around, he was ready to put his plan into action. When he walked into the living room with that camera, I knew there was no talking him out of it. "It's going to be fun," he said, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "And if it works, it'll be the best thing we've ever done with Max." I'll admit, part of me was curious. I mean, who doesn't want to see their dog do something amazing? But the other part of me was screaming, "This is a terrible idea." Still, I couldn't say no. There was something about Jake's excitement that was contagious. Plus, Max was already wagging his tail, ready to be the star of the show. So there we were, standing in the middle of the living room, with Jake holding the camera and me trying to keep Max focused. Jake had set up a few props, nothing too crazy, but enough to make me wonder what exactly he had in mind. "Okay," he said, "just follow my lead. And whatever you do, don't laugh." That, of course, was easier said than done. Because as soon as Jake started explaining what we were about to do, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. It was ridiculous, it was over the top, and it was so very Jake. But here's the thing, I still don't know if it was going to work. Because just as we were about to start, something happened that completely threw you. Something I never could have predicted. And that's where I'm going to leave you for now. What was the trick? What went wrong? And did Max actually pull it off? You'll have to wait for the next part to find out. Trust me, it's worth the wait. So, there we were, standing in the living room, Jake with the camera, me trying to keep Max from bolting, and this ridiculous plan hanging in the air between us. Jake had laid out a few props, a hula hoop, a skateboard, and a treat bag that Max was already eyeing like it was the Holy Grail. "Okay," Jake said, his voice full of confidence, "here's the plan. Max is going to jump through the hula hoop, ride the skateboard, and then catch a treat mid-air. Easy, right?" I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. But he was dead serious. I should have known better. Max can barely walk in a straight line without tripping over his own paws, let alone perform a three-part trick that even a professionally trained dog might struggle with. But Jake was undeterred. "He's got this," he said, as if Max had been secretly practicing behind our backs. I glanced at Max, who was now chewing on the edge of the hula hoop, completely oblivious to the pressure being put on him. "Jake," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "maybe we should start with something simpler. Like, I don't know, teaching him to roll over?" But Jake wasn't having it. No, this is the one. Trust me." The first attempt was, well, let's just say it didn't go as planned. Jake held up the hula hoop, and I tried to coax Max through it with a treat. Max took one look at the hoop, tilted his head like it was the most confusing thing he'd ever seen, and then promptly sat down. Jake laughed, but I could see the frustration creeping in. Okay, let's try again," he said, adjusting the camera angle. This time, he decided to demonstrate himself, jumping through the hoop like some kind of overenthusiastic fitness instructor. Max watched him, tail wagging, but still didn't mo. By the third attempt, things started to unravel. Max got bored and decided the skateboard looked like a better chew toy than a mode of transportation. Jake tried to intervene, but Max was too quick, knocking the skateboard into the coffee table and sending the treat bag flying. Treats scattered everywhere, and Max went into full chaos mode, darting around the room like a furry tornado. I couldn't help but laugh, but Jake was determined. "We're not giving up," he said, picking up the camera again. "We're so close." But here's the thing, I wasn't so sure. Max was clearly not into it, and I could feel my patience wearing thin. And then, just as Jake was about to start filming again, the doorbell rang. Max, of course, lost his mind, barking and sprinting toward the door like he was on a mission. Jake and I exchanged a look. "Who could that be?" he muttered, clearly annoyed at the interruption. I didn't know, but something told me this wasn't going to make things any easier. And that's where I'll leave you for now. Who was at the door? Did we ever get Max to cooperate? And what happened to Jake's grand plan? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The doorbell ringing was like a bomb going off in the middle of our already chaotic situation. Max, of course, went absolutely wild, barking like he was auditioning for a guard dog role in an action movie. Jake groaned, setting the camera down on the couch. "I'll get it," he said, clearly annoyed. I stayed behind, trying to calm Max down, but he was too hyped up, running circles around me like a furry tornado. When Jake opened the door, I heard a familiar voice. It was our neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, holding a plate of cookies and looking as cheerful as ever. "Hi, Jake. I just wanted to drop these off," she said, completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding inside. Jake forced a smile and thanked her, but I could tell he was itching to get back to his project. Meanwhile, Max had spotted the cookies and was now trying to squeeze past Jake to get to Mrs. Henderson. I lunged forward, grabbing his collar just in time. "Max, no," I said, but he was already halfway out the door, dragging me with him. Mrs. Henderson laughed, clearly amused by the spectacle. "Oh, Max, you're such a character," she said, handing Jake the cookies. Jake thanked her again and quickly shut the door, but the damage was done. Max was now more hyper than ever, and the living room looked like a tornado had hit it. Treats were scattered everywhere, the skateboard was upside down in the corner, and the hula hoop was now draped over Max like some kind of awkward accessory. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Okay, let's regroup," he said, picking up the camera again. "We've got this." But I wasn't so sure. Max was panting heavily, his tongue hanging out like he'd just run a marathon, and I could feel my own energy starting to fade. "Jake," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "maybe we should call it a day. Max is tired, and I'm not sure this is going to work." But Jake shook his head. "No, we're so close. Just one more try." He set up the hula hoop again and held up a treat, trying to get Max's attention. Max, however, had other plans. He lunged for the treat, knocking the hula hoop out of Jake's hands and sending it rolling across the room. Jake groaned, but before he could say anything, Max spotted the skateboard and made a beeline for it. What happened next was pure chaos. Max jumped onto the skateboard, sending it flying across the room and straight into the coffee table. The camera, which Jake had set on the table, wobbled precariously before falling to the floor with a loud thud. Jake and I both froze, staring at the camera in horror. "Please tell me it's still recording," I said, my heart sinking. Jake picked it up, his face pale. I don't know," he said, staring at the screen. "And that's where I'll leave you. Did the camera survive? Did we finally get Max to cooperate? Or was this whole thing a complete disaster? The answers are coming, but trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. The tension is real, and the climax is just around the corner. Stay tuned." Jake and I stood there, staring at the camera like it held the secrets of the universe. The screen was black, and for a moment, neither of us dared to breathe. "Please tell me it's not broken," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Jake pressed the power button, and to our relief, the screen flickered to life. But the relief was short-lived. The video had stopped recording the moment the camera hit the floor. "No, no, no," Jake muttered, frantically scrolling through the footage. "We lost it. All of it." My heart sank. All that chaos, all that effort, gone. Just like that. But before we could even process what had happened, Max decided to add his own twist to the story. While Jake and I were distracted, he had somehow managed to get the hula hoop stuck around his middle like a giant, awkward belt. He was now running in circles, trying to shake it off, and in the process, he knocked over a lamp, sending it crashing to the floor. "Max, stop!" I shouted, but it was too late. The lamp shattered, and Max froze, looking at us with those big, guilty eyes. Jake groaned, running a hand over his face. "This is a disaster," he said, but there was a hint of laughter in his voice now. "A complete, total disaster." Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a text from my best friend, Sarah. Hey. Just saw your Instagram story. What on earth are you guys doing with Max? My stomach dropped. Jake, I said slowly, holding up my phone. Did you post something? He looked at me, confused, and then his eyes widened in horror. Oh no, he said, grabbing his phone. I think I might have accidentally hit share. When I was setting up the camera earlier, I felt my face flush. Jake. What did you post? He scrolled through his phone, his face turning red. It looks like it was just the first few seconds. You know, when I was explaining the plan. But still. I grabbed his phone and watched the clip. Sure enough, there was Jake, grinning at the camera, saying, "Okay, so today we're trying something crazy with Max. You're not going to believe this." The video cut off before anything actually happened, but the comments were already pouring in. People were intrigued, confused, and, worst of all, excited to see the rest. Jake, I said, my voice tight, we have to finish this now. People are waiting. He nodded, but before he could say anything, Max let out a loud bark, as if reminding us that he was still the star of this show. And then, out of nowhere, Jake got that look in his eye again. The one that usually means trouble. I have an idea, he said, a slow grin spreading across his face. But you're not going to like it. I groaned, already dreading what was coming next. What now? I asked, bracing myself. Jake picked up the camera and pointed it at me. We're going bigger. If we're going to do this, we're going all in. What was his plan? Did we finally pull it off? Or did everything go completely off the rails? The stakes are higher than ever, and the tension is unbearable. Stay tuned, because this story is about to take a wild turn. Jake's big idea turned out to be even crazier than I expected. He decided we were going to recreate the entire stunt, but this time, we were going to do it outside. More space, better lighting, and no breakable lamps, he said, as if that solved all our problems. I hesitated, but the pressure of the Instagram post and the growing comments pushed me to agree. Fine, I said, but if this goes wrong, it's on you. Jake grinned, clearly thrilled that I was on board. Max, of course, was just happy to be included. Wagging his tail like this was the best day of his life. We moved everything to the backyard, the hula hoop, the skateboard, and a fresh bag of treats. Jake set up the camera on a tripod this time, making sure it was secure. Okay, he said, clapping his hands to get Max's attention. Let's do this right. I held the hula hoop, trying to coax Max through it with a treat. This time, to my surprise, he actually jumped through it, sort of. It was more of a clumsy hop, but it was progress. Jake cheered, and I couldn't help but laugh. Okay, one down, I said, feeling a tiny spark of hope. Next came the skateboard. Jake placed it on the ground and held Max's favorite toy just out of reach. Come on, Max, he said, patting the board. Max tilted his head, clearly confused, but then, miracle of miracles, he stepped onto the skateboard. Jake gently pushed it, and Max actually rode it for a few feet before hopping off. Yes. Jake shouted, pumping his fist in the air. I couldn't believe it. Maybe, just maybe, this was going to work. The final part of the trick was the mid-air treat catch. Jake held up a treat, and I positioned Max in front of the camera. Ready? Jake asked, his voice full of excitement. I nodded, holding my breath. He tossed the treat, and Max leaped into the air, his mouth open wide. For a split second, it looked like he was going to catch it, but then, at the last moment, he veered off course, chasing a butterfly that had fluttered into view. The treat hit the ground, and Max bolted after the butterfly, barking like a maniac. Jake and I burst out laughing, the tension finally breaking. Of course, Jake said, shaking his head. Of course he'd get distracted by a butterfly. But here's the twist, while we were laughing, the camera kept rolling. And somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, Max accidentally knocked the skateboard into the hula hoop, sending it rolling straight toward the camera. It hit the tripod, and the camera tilted, capturing the most unexpected shot of all, Max, mid-leap, with the butterfly in the background, looking like some kind of heroic action star. Jake and I didn't even realize it until we watched the footage later. It was pure, unplanned magic. We posted the video, and to our surprise, it went viral. People loved Max's chaotic energy and the unexpected butterfly cameo. The comments were flooded with things like, "Max is a legend, and this is the best thing I've ever seen." Jake and I couldn't stop laughing. It wasn't the trick we'd planned, but it was perfect in its own way. So, what's the moral of the story? Sometimes, things don't go as planned, and that's okay. Because in the end, it's the unexpected moments that make the best memories. And Max? Well, he's still our goofy, lovable, totally untrainable dog. But now, he's also a viral sensation. Who could have seen that coming? After the video went viral, life in our little household changed in the best way possible. Max became an overnight sensation, and Jake and I couldn't believe how many people fell in love with his chaotic charm. Our inboxes were flooded with messages from people sharing their own funny pet stories, and even a few brands reached out, asking if Max would be interested in collaborating. Jake joked that Max was now the breadwinner of the family, and I couldn't help but laugh. Who would have thought our goofy golden retriever would become an internet star? But beyond the fame, something even more special happened. The whole experience brought Jake and me closer together. It reminded us why we fell in love in the first place, because life with him is never boring. Sure, his ideas can be a little out there, but they always lead to adventures, and this one was no exception. We spent the next few days scrolling through the comments together, laughing at the memes people made of Max and the butterfly. It was amazing to see how much joy our little backyard chaos had brought to so many people. As for Max, well, he remained completely unfazed by his newfound fame. He was still the same lovable, slightly clueless dog who just wanted snacks, belly rubs, and the occasional chase after a butterfly. We tried to teach him a few more tricks after the viral video, but he made it clear that he was done performing. The skateboard gathered dust in the garage, and the hula hoop became his new favorite chew toy. And honestly, we were okay with that. Max had given us, and the internet, a moment of pure, unfiltered joy, and that was more than enough. Looking back, I realized that the whole experience taught me something important. Life doesn't always go according to plan, and that's okay. Sometimes, the best moments are the ones you never see coming. Whether it's a dog chasing a butterfly, a camera capturing the perfect shot by accident, or a husband convincing you to try something completely ridiculous, those are the moments that make life unforgettable. So, what's next for us? Well, Jake already has a new idea brewing, something involving Max, a kiddie pool, and a bunch of tennis balls. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I've learned to trust the process. After all, you never know when the next big adventure, or viral moment, is just around the corner. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. If you've got a funny pet story of your own, share it in the comments below. And who knows? Maybe Max will inspire your next big adventure. Until then, keep laughing, keep loving, and always expect the unexpected.